afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Facebook Live event. Really great to have you with us, whether you're watching this live this afternoon or whether you're watching it later on the replay. Hello to all of you. For those who don't know me, my name is David Miles, and I'm on a mission to help mortgage brokers and financial advisors to generate a consistent flow of leads so as they can stop stressing about where their next client is coming from. Now, our topic today is we're going to be talking about WordPress plugins, what they are and what the top ones are that I recommend that you should be using. First of all, if you could just do me a quick favor and just put something in the comments, hashtag live or hashtag replay, just to let me know whether you're watching it live or on the replay, and also just so I can see for definite that my comment screen is all working as it should be. That'd be fantastic. Hi, Alexander, good to see you. Yeah, that's what we're going to be covering today. Do put questions in the chat as well as we go through, and I'll either pick those up as I see them appear, or failing that, I'll allow some time at the end to skim through them and answer any questions that you may have put in. Okay, right, so let's get going then. So I guess the first thing we should just quickly cover is actually what are WordPress plugins. So WordPress, for those who don't know, is a website building platform. Basically, it's really widely used. It's what's called a content management system, and it's depending on which stat you believe, a huge number of the world's websites, at least 50% of the websites in the world, are built on WordPress. And the beauty of WordPress is it's really versatile in itself and can do a lot of things, and it allows both professional web developers and designers and individual marketers and business owners and whatever to create websites relatively easily without having to know lots and lots of HTML coding and all that sort of thing. But one of the other real beauties of WordPress is the fact that it's very expandable via these things called plugins. So people can create plugins for WordPress that do all sorts of different things and extend the functionality of the websites that you build with the core system. Now, some of these plugins are totally free, and others are paid for, but even the ones which are paid for are generally a very low one-off cost, or a small monthly or yearly subscription. And the beauty of the plugins is that very often they remove the need for you to go to a web developer if you need something added to your website. So if you've got your site built on WordPress in the first place and you decide you want to add some particular functionality to it, whereas pre-WordPress and pre-plugins, you'd have to have got someone to sort of custom code this stuff for you. Now you can very often just think, right, I want to add this particular feature or function to my website. Oh, let's see if there's a WordPress plugin for it. Oh yes, there is. Install the plugin. And job done. So, and even of course, if you're getting a web designer to do that for you rather than doing it yourself, the fact that there's a ready-made plugin means the amount of time it takes the web designer to do it is greatly reduced, and so that keeps your costs down as well. So what I'm going to go through today are what I think are the top 5 WordPress plugins that you should be using as a financial advisor or a mortgage broker in order to improve your website, and also ultimately to help ensure that you get more inquiries and more leads from it. So actually, before I forget, I'm just going to put a link in the comments to a document which lists all the plugins that I'm going to be mentioning today, because that way, if you want to go and check any of them out, you've got all the links to them all in one place. So hopefully that should work okay. Right, so let's bring up the slides, and then we can get started. Okay, so the first plugin that I'm going to recommend that you use on your website is one called Rank Math. Now, confusingly, it's actually got nothing to do with maths whatsoever, as far as I can see. But it's a plugin which is designed to help you improve the search engine optimization of your website. So if you want your website to rank higher in Google's organic search results, there are all sorts of factors involved in that, and we've talked about some of those on previous live stream events. But you can do a lot of these things. We can do all of these things manually to make your website more search engine friendly and make it easier for Google to figure out what your website's about. Or you can use a plugin such as Rank Math to make those make that a lot easier, to make it a lot easier for you as a non-search engine optimization specialist to make your website more Google friendly. And it does two things really. It, as I say, makes it easier for you to set all the things correctly in the first place, but it also does a kind of on-the-fly SEO auditing function. So every time you create a new page or a new post on your WordPress website, you can tell Rank Math what kind of keywords you're hoping that that page will rank highly for, and it will tell you, how good a job you've done of optimizing the page for those particular search terms. So, if you were creating a post that you wanted to rank highly on Google for, I don't know, bad credit mortgages, you could tell Rank Math that that was your focus keyword, and it would give you a score for how well optimized you were for that particular term. Now, a lot of people haven't heard of Rank Math, and what they've heard of instead is a very similar plugin called Yoast, which is spelt like toast but with a Y at the start. And Yoast has been around a lot longer than Rank Math, but I prefer Rank Math because I think it's easier to use, and above all, it does a lot more things for free than Yoast does. So both Yoast and Rank Math have they work on the freemium model. They have a free plugin, but if you upgrade and pay, you can get certain extra features. And basically, within the free element of Rank Math, you get a lot more stuff than you get in the free version of Yoast. So let me just actually show you in real life what sort of thing you can do with this. So this is actually from my own website, and this is one of the posts on my site, an article about various Google Ads tools and things. And you can see over on the right hand side here, this is where I've got all the Rank Math stuff coming up via that plugin. So the first thing it allows me to do is I can click edit snippet, and it gives me a nice easy way. Let me just move myself slightly out of the way there. It gives a nice easy way for me to set the title tag for this post, to set what's called the meta description that tells search engines and humans what the post is about. It lets me specify what I want the URL of the post to be as well, and it also, via this social tab, it allows me to control how the post will appear when it gets shared on social media. So, what image will be used, and what will the title appear as, and everything like that. So that's quite useful as well, because without that kind of thing, sometimes you'll share something onto Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and it will just appear as a kind of, it won't have the proper image there. It might have no image at all, or it might have a random image pulled from your page. It could even just be an icon or something that's been pulled out the page. Whereas by using this, you can control how the stuff appears when it's shared onto social. And then as we go further down on the right hand side here, you can see here that I've put in the kind of keywords that I was hoping that this post would be optimized for and would rank for. So I've put in things like Google Ads tools, PPC tools, Google AdWords tools, Google Ads software, those kinds of things. And what Rank Math then does is, down here it tells me how good a job I've done of optimizing for those particular things. So you see it's saying, right, well, you're using your focus keyword of Google Ads tools in the SEO title, so that's a good thing. The SEO title being this bit over here that we set. So that's a good thing. I'm using it in my meta description. I'm using it in my URL, and it also analyzes. You see here, it analyzes the content of the post, and it's saying that my focus keyword appears within the first 10% of the content, which is another thing that helps signal to Google that this is a post that should rank for the term Google Ads tools. It looks at the length of the content, and tells you whether the content is too long or too short for sort of what's considered to be the optimum, and so on. And then down here, it's flagged an error there for something. It reckons my keyword density is a bit too low. So, I could look to improve that if I wanted to. It analyzes the readability of the title, and then down here it even analyzes the readability of your content as well. And of course, even leaving aside any SEO aspects, it's good from a human point of view, of course, if your content is easy to read. So this is useful from that point of view. And it's basically saying, I'm doing okay, but it reckons I've got one paragraph that is too long, and that perhaps I should consider breaking that paragraph down into a couple of shorter ones. And taking all those things together, it then gives me a score at the top here showing how well optimized this page is. And 91 out of 100 is pretty good. I have not all of my posts are that well optimized, but obviously for the purposes of this, I'm showing off, and I picked one that's got a good score. But if it's got a lower score, it will grade it red, amber, green. And obviously, if you've got ones which are, particularly if they're red, then you should go back in, look at the kinds of stuff it's picked up in its audit, and look to try and improve the optimization levels of the post. So that's Rank Math, and so I haven't got the paid version of Rank Math because in fact originally they only had a free version. It's only in the last 6 months or so they've introduced a paid version, but all the stuff I'm showing you here can all be done with the totally free implementation of Rank Math. So I would recommend using that, and I would recommend actually if you're currently using Yoast, I would definitely look at switching across, because you'll find you get far more features bundled into the free version of Rank Math compared to what's in Yoast. Okay, so that's the first one on our list. Now let's look at what we've got next. So the second plugin I recommend you use is one called WP Rocket, as in WordPress Rocket. And what WP Rocket is all about is about improving the speed of your website. In other words, how quickly the website and the individual pages load. And there are various plugins that that do similar things that improve the speed of your site. Personally, having tried out a few of them over the years, I think WP Rocket is the best one in terms of how well it performs, and also how easy it is to set up, and how good a job it does of setting the right options for you sort of straight out the box without you having to do loads of thinking or knowing a whole load of technical stuff about how websites work. So so that's what it does. It speeds up your website. Now, why is that important? Well, two reasons really. Firstly, there's what we call the user experience angle. So nobody likes a website that loads slowly. Everyone's really impatient, and I'm sure you've done it yourselves. If you're on Google and you click on a search result, if the website takes more than a couple of seconds to load, you're probably going to go, oh, sod this, and click back and go back to Google and try the next one. And of course, your potential clients will do the same if your website loads slowly. So it's important that your website loads quickly from that point of view. It reduces what we call the bounce rate, the percentage of people who leave having only looked at that first page of your site before that page even loads. And as people move around your website from one page to the next, they don't want to be waiting ages for each page to load. So that's one side of it. But then the other side of it is that website speed is a big factor when it comes to search engine optimization. Google knows that humans like websites that load quickly, and therefore for that reason Google will favor in its search results, and when it's deciding how to rank websites and in what order, Google will favor websites that load quickly as well, because Google wants its search results to be full of websites that give searchers what they're looking for, both in terms of the content and in terms of a good user experience. So speeding up your site means you'll be doing a better job of pleasing your visitors, and you'll be pleasing Google as well. Now, obviously, you can either yourself or get a web developer to go through and do lots of changes to your website to reduce the size of the code and and optimize the way the site's constructed and everything to try and make it load faster. Or you can get a plugin like WP Rocket, which does all that stuff for you. It's purely designed to take WordPress websites and optimize the code within them and everything so as it loads as quickly as possible. WP Rocket is not a free plugin. There is a cost for it. It's last time I looked, it was $49 per annum. So not really a huge amount of money to pay, and certainly a lot cheaper than trying to get a web developer to go through your site manually and recode it so as it loads faster. So that's number two that I recommend you get, is WP Rocket. The third one that we've got here is Optimal, and that kind of goes hand in hand really with something like WP Rocket. It's another plugin that's designed to make your site load faster and more efficiently. But what Optimal does is it focuses on one specific aspect of what makes sites load fast or slow, and that is the images on your pages. So if a website is loading slowly, very often it's the images which are the biggest issue, because what tends to happen is, if you put a photo or any other kind of image onto a page on your website, that's very often the largest file size, the largest file size item within the page. That's the thing that's going to slow it down. And the reason this happens is what people tend to do is, let's say you were looking for, a stock image of someone filling in a mortgage application, for example. You might go to an image library like Shutterstock or a free one like Pixabay or whatever, and you find your image and you download it. And of course, that image you download will actually be physically huge, and a really, really high resolution image, because they provide them in a form which would look good if you were to put it into print. But of course, the thing is, on an actual web page, you don't need your image to be anywhere near that high quality or that high resolution. And you don't need it to be sized, as a huge thing that you could print out on A3 paper. But of course, what people end up doing, they just use that really high quality image on their website, which means that the image, is megabytes in size and really slows down the page loading. So one option is to make sure that anytime you include an image in your website, you manually resize it. So, it's only sort of that big, and that you degrade the resolution so as it's a much smaller file size and all that kind of thing. Yeah, you can do that manually for every single image, or you can get a web designer to do it, but that is a massive faff. What something like Optimal does is it automates all of this. So if you use Optimal as a plugin on your website, then every time you upload an image, or put an image into a post or onto a page, Optimal takes that and it optimizes it automatically for you. And in fact, it takes a copy of that image, puts it on its own servers in an optimized form, and whenever someone loads that page, Optimal steps in and serves them up the much faster loading, much smaller version of that image. Visually, you would not notice any difference. The way it's been optimized, it still looks perfectly fine on the screen. You wouldn't know it happened, but it will load much, much faster. Optimal, again, I'm not sure if they may have a free version up to a certain number of page visits per month. I can't remember, but if you do have to pay for it, their most basic plan is around £20 a month. So those two things together, WP Rocket and Optimal, will greatly, greatly increase the speed at which your web pages load. Okay, I have used both of those in the past myself. I currently at the moment use a different solution on my website called Nitro Pack. Does all the same stuff. I don't recommend you use that because it's quite a bit more expensive, but it's worth it if you've got lots and lots of visitors to your site. But for most sites with sort of ordinary kind of levels of traffic, I would recommend, at least to begin with, just sticking with WP Rocket and Optimal, because that will tick all those boxes for you. Ritesh, I can see your question about site security, so I'll come back to that at the end. Paul says your video is frozen. I don't think it's frozen. I've actually got a separate laptop running here with logged in as a watcher of the live stream, and that's still working. So I think it's just you, Paul. But if anyone else's is broken, do say in the chat. This will be available to watch as a replay afterwards, Paul. So if you can't get it working, just come back to the group, in the next half hour or so, and you'll find it in the videos section. Right. Okay. So that was Optimal. That was what, number 3, wasn't it? So number 4, the fourth plugin I recommend that you use is called Thrive Leads. Now, the purpose of Thrive Leads is to help you build up a mailing list, email mailing list from the people who visit your site. Oh, you're back, Paul. Excellent. Richard said it's froze for a bit. Okay, apologies for that. Dodgy bandwidth, children at home, homeschooling, streaming stuff, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, Thrive Leads is all about helping turn your website visitors into email subscribers. Now, a lot of you will have heard me talk before about how important I think it is that you build up an email list. You've got all these people coming to your website. Hopefully, a large number of them will do the thing you ultimately want them to do, which is make a mortgage inquiry or, put in an inquiry form for financial advice or whatever, but not all of them will. And the more of those people where you can at least capture their name and email address and get them onto a mailing list, the better, because it then means you're building up this list that you can market to in the future, with follow-up emails to nurture them until they are ready to talk to you or whatever. But of course, you'd only do that if you get people onto your list in the first place. And again, many of you will have heard me talk about how you can use lead magnets, downloadable free guides and things like that to do this, to offer as a kind of a hook to get people to to subscribe to your list. And what you certainly don't want to do, because it really doesn't work, is have something on your website that says join our mailing list or sign up for our newsletter, because nobody wants that. Okay, so the reason I like Thrive Leads is it makes it really, really simple to create the kind of opt-in forms that you can use to offer those sort of lead magnets to your visitors to your website. So you can have these forms in various different styles. So you could have, just an embedded form somewhere on a page that says download this guide. They tend to be the least effective in terms of getting people to actually opt in, because a lot of people miss them. But Thrive Leads also lets you do things like have forms that pop up as soon as someone arrives on your website. Not every time they arrive, but just the first time that a particular person visits your site. Or they can have the kind of forms where once someone scrolled a certain way down the page, the form slides in and says, would you like to download our guide? And by experimenting with those different types of forms, you can find the ones that work best for your audience in terms of getting you the best sign-up rate. You can have ones as well that pop up when someone's about to leave your website as well. Although generally, I've always found the ones that pop up when they arrive are far better than the ones that pop up when they exit. So I use Thrive Leads on my own site, so I can just show you a couple of things with this now, actually. Switch across to that. So this is the Thrive Leads dashboard, and as you can see, one of the things it lets you do is create different lead groups. So basically, on my website, I show different pop-up forms depending on what kind of page it is. So in other words, if someone's reading a page about Google Ads, I'll have a form that pops up and offers them a downloadable guide about Google Ads. Whereas if they're on a page that's related to mortgage brokers, they'll get a form pop up which offers them a guide around generating mortgage leads or marketing a mortgage business. So you can have different pop-ups depending on different groups of pages. And then within that, you can experiment with different types of forms as well. So you can see on my mortgage related pages, I've tested out different types of forms, like a light box, which is like a standard kind of pop-up form, or a screen filler that actually takes over the whole page. And you can see within the time people are looking at here, much better sign-up rate from the screen filler ones than from the light box. You can have different types of forms on desktop from mobile. So, you might decide on a mobile, you don't want a huge screen filling form. You just want a ribbon along the top or along the bottom. You can do all that kind of thing. And so it does all that kind of testing for you. And because of the fact it uses Thrive's page building software, which I've talked about before, and I recommend to people on the Predictable Pipeline program. Those of you on that will see there's lots of lessons around how to use Thrive's page building software, but they provide the same thing for people who are using Thrive Leads. So this is the kind of pop-up form that you can have, and this is really easy to make just by taking the elements from here. You can put an image, just drag stuff onto the page. If you wanted to, put a button, you just drag stuff in, whatever. So it's really, really easy to create the forms and create different versions of them. So you might think, right, well, that form's working right. Let's try one where, I don't know, we have an orange button instead of a pink one or something like that, or we change the wording, and it will do that kind of split testing for you to see which one gets you the most signups. So I do strongly recommend that you have a look at Thrive Leads if you're serious about trying to build an email list, which you should be. In terms of the pricing for Thrive Leads, Thrive have changed their model recently. So it used to be you could buy Thrive Leads as an individual plugin for something like, I think, $67 as a one-off. They've changed that now. They now have stopped making their different plugins available individually. You now can only get them as part of their overall Thrive suite. But that is only $19 a month. And that, if you get the whole suite, you not only get Thrive Leads, you get Thrive Architect, which lets you build whole websites. You get all sorts, there's about 10 different plugins you get in it. So again, have a look at their website. But that's, even allowing for that, that's still one of the most economical pop-up opt-in form builder ones, because a lot of the competitors like Opt-in Monster charge you far more, and they charge you based on number of visitors to your site and all that kind of thing. So I'm still, even though they've changed their pricing model, I'm still a big advocate of Thrive Leads for doing this kind of thing. And then the final one is 10 to 8 as a plugin. So 10 to 8. Yeah, anyone who's had any kind of call with me will have been on the customer end, the client end of 10 to 8. It's a system that allows you to have your clients book calls with you at times when you're going to be free. And the reason I think it's a really good thing to add to your websites is very often you find if you've got a website promoting mortgage advice or financial advice, you'll get people come on there and they fill in an inquiry form saying that they want you to call them back to discuss the mortgage or a pension or protection or whatever it might be. And that's great. But then when you go to call them back, they don't answer. Or you call them and say, oh, actually, it's not convenient now. Can you ring back in a couple of hours? And, you get all that toing and froing. It can remove a lot of that back and forth and reduce a lot of the friction in the follow-up process if you actually provide this kind of self-service option where the client or the prospect can actually book a call at a time which suits them, and obviously when you're going to be free as well. So one thing that I think can work quite well, and I often recommend that people test out, is to have your website set up that people still fill in a form saying I'd like to have a call back, but then they submit that, and then obviously you've got their details anyway. But then on the sort of confirmation page that pops up, you could actually have a message saying, we've got your inquiry, we'll try and give you a call back soon. In case we miss each other, would you actually like to book a dedicated time to speak to me about your mortgage or about your pension or whatever it is? And then on there, they can be offered a calendar like the one I've got on the slide there that shows all the available time slots you've got. And this actually syncs up with your Outlook calendar or your Apple calendar or whatever. So it will only ever offer people appointments at times when you are free. And also you can tell the software that, maybe you don't ever want to do calls on a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon or something. So you can set your overall hours when you are generally available for calls, so it will only ever offer calls within those times, but it will also obviously check that you're not already booked to do something else, whether that's another call or some other meeting that's nothing to do with this system. So it will handle all of that for you. So there are various systems like that. Calendly is one you've probably seen a lot. Actuity, I think, is another. I like 10 to 8 because, again, they've got a free plan which does, I think, more than the free plans in any of the competitors. So certainly everything I ever need to do with it is all available in the free plan, which is great. And although that's a standalone service, they provide a WordPress plugin so as you can integrate 10 to 8 within your own website rather than having to always send people off to a separate site. So let me just show you what I mean by that by taking you back to my own site. So this is a page on my site where people can book a call with me, and you can see here we are that by having used the 10 to 8 plugin on my website, it shows what the available slots are. So I've said I don't do appointments on a Saturday or Sunday, so it will always say no available slots there. And I've told it something like, I don't know, I'm available generally between 10 and 5 on a Thursday. So it's then looked at that and it can see I've already got some bookings for Thursday. So it's narrowed down a list of choices. And if someone wanted to book this, they just pick the one they want, something like that. And then it asks for their name, email, phone number, and they click book. And the beauty of it as well is it does all the reminders and stuff. So once this is booked, it will automatically say, oh, your booking's confirmed. And, in advance of the actual call, it will send them a reminder. So it reduces the risk of no-shows and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think 10 to 8 is a really good thing to use. And if you're going to use it, then take it that step further, get the 10 to 8 plugin and, and integrate it into your website as well. And as I say, that plugin is completely free, as is the software itself, unless you really want to go to town and have loads and loads of extra features. But as I say, I've never needed to do that myself. So that's my list of 5: Rank Math, WP Rocket, Optimal, Thrive Leads, and 10 to 8. So right, let's have a look at what we've got in the questions. So I'll go back up a bit. Right, so there was Ritesh's question about site security. So yeah, it is a good idea to have a plugin to just help make your website, your WordPress site more secure, protect against hackers, that kind of thing. The one that I use myself is the one that you mentioned there, Ritesh, is WordFence. I actually don't use the pro version of it. I'm just using the standard free version. But yeah, WordFence seems to be the one that most people go for. So I would certainly recommend that based on my own experience with it. There is, by the way, an article on my website that's called, so I'll put a link to it in the comments when we're done, but which is called like 11 WordPress plugins. So within that article about 11 plugins, I've mentioned these 5 plus some others, and WordFence is one of the ones mentioned in there. Question from Jim. So Jim asked whether WP Rocket only lets you use it on one website or multiple websites. I think that the basic one only allows you to use it on one website for that $49 a year. But if that's the case, there certainly are other pricing plans where you can use it on multiple sites. So I think they've maybe got one where you can use it on 3 sites, and they've got, like, you know, if you want to really go to town, they've got an agency plan where, you know, if you're a web developer, you can buy one license and use it for your clients. But so yeah, but it certainly does answer that on their site, Jim. So if you want to find it out, then have a look in the document I shared in the comments and click through, and it'll have it all there. Anil said, can this link to Active Campaign? I'm assuming, Anil, you put that in when I was talking about Thrive Leads. So yeah, absolutely it can. That's exactly how I use it myself. So Active Campaign is the email automation system that I use, which, you know, maintains my mailing list, deals with any unsubscribe requests, sends out the emails, either automated ones or, you know, manually sent ones. So yeah, Thrive Leads will talk directly to Active Campaign, and whenever someone fills in the Thrive Leads form, it will automatically add them to the database of contacts in Active Campaign. But it doesn't just work with Active Campaign, it works with all the big email automation systems, Aweber, ConvertKit, Infusionsoft, that, you know, the whole lot. It will tie in with all of them via the API. Ritesh has asked, yeah, similar. No, don't apologize for the questions, Ritesh. It makes it more interesting if there's questions, because it means I have to think, which is good. Yes, it will work with Active Campaign, as I just said. Thrive Leads. I'm pretty sure it works with Sendinblue as well. As I say, it works. There's a list of about 10 or 15 in the integration list, but I'm sure Sendinblue is one of them. Philip says WP Cal does it very well and free. Like candidate, yeah. Again, they're probably, a lot of them are all much for much. It's just, yeah, when I first was looking for one however many years ago, I looked at 2 or 3, settled on 10 to 8. But yeah, I think the key thing is, I think having that kind of booking system just puts you a little bit ahead of competitors, just makes things a little bit easier for the prospects, for the clients. And it's also as well quite useful, aside from just booking on your website, if you're trying to set up a meeting with someone, you know, rather than have all that to and fro, well, I can do Monday at 3. Oh, I can't do Monday at 3. Can you do Tuesday at 4? You know, rather than that, I don't have that anymore, because now someone wants to talk to me or have a meeting with me, I just go, there's a link. That's all the times I'm free. Pick one of those you like, and it cuts down so much of that sort of inefficient back and forth email tennis kind of stuff that you would have otherwise. And Ritesh said, how would 10 to 8 differ from Microsoft Bookings? Answer to that is, I've got no idea, so I've never used Microsoft Bookings, but I'm guessing from the name that it's similar, and therefore, yeah, it probably just comes down to personal preference, pricing, you know, those kinds of things. Jim asked, is that a brick wall behind you real, or is it a green background thing? It's a bit of both. It's not a CGI effect. There is actually a real wall behind there, but it's covered in a backdrop to make it look nicer than the actual wallpaper. The software I'm using here today to mean that I can do that and minimize myself and have the slides behind me is a bit of software called, it's got a very strange name, it's called as in double M, HMM. Yeah, it lets you do all that kind of stuff, and I can fade myself gently out and all kinds of things. Anyway, I have a, yeah, it's a it's double M, HMM. So you want to have a look at it and try it out. That's the thing to look for. And Philip has asked, yeah, well, as said, like, is it directly links with Zoom for client interviews? I'm not sure if you're talking there now, Philip, about 10 to 8 or about the other one. 10 to 8 will link with Zoom as well. So the way I have it configured is whenever someone makes a booking but using 10 to 8, it automatically creates that as a Zoom meeting, and it obviously puts it into my calendar as well. And that's all included in the freebie version. Good. Okay. So I think if that's all the questions, then we covered quite a range of things. Then questions, but everything from WordPress plugins to what walls are made of. So that's always good. If you think of a question afterwards, or if you're watching this on the replay and have a question, do put it in the comments, because I'll keep an eye on this as usual over the next couple of days. And if I see any new questions in there, I will jump in and answer them. But I hope you found that useful. I suspect a lot of you are using WordPress, and if you've got all of those plugins in place already, I'll be surprised. So yeah, if there are ones there that you haven't already used, then do check them out and see whether they could make your website better, faster, and ultimately, a better generator of leads and new clients. The only other thing, just to let you know, I know probably a lot of you have attended the webinar masterclass I've run over the last few weeks about using Google Ads to get more mortgage leads. I have released some more dates for that because there were still some people who didn't manage to make it to the dates I've run so far. So if you're interested in that, it's totally free to attend. It's about an hour or so of training on how to use Google Ads to get more mortgage leads. And you can book in for that at theppcmachine.co.uk/webinar. Again, I'll pop that in the chat afterwards. So thank you very much for coming along today. Hope you found it useful, and I will see you again for the next one in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much, everyone.